I was 32 when I discovered my cousin's 6 Game Boy Color cartridges in the attic, hidden beneath a pile of dusty, forgotten toys. I inherited them after the estate sale, a small token left behind when family began to drift apart. Each bright-colored cartridge was like a window into my childhood, a relic of simpler times where gaming meant sitting cross-legged on worn carpet, my cousin next to me, our eyes glued to the tiny screen. The cartridges were a bit scuffed and yellowing at the edges, but they still carried a certain charm that stirred up nostalgia. A time when the biggest worry was which character to choose in Pokemon or whether Mario could finally rescue Princess Peach. As I gently picked up the cartridges, my heart fluttered with a mix of excitement and unease. I hadn't seen my cousin in years. He had died young, leaving only fragments of memories behind. There was a warmth in these objects, something nearly tangible that made me remember all the laughter and late-night gaming marathons that brought us together. Yet, there was also a creeping feeling that something was amiss, something just beyond my grasp. Driven by curiosity, I decided to pop open the first cartridge, feeling a thrill at the sound of the mechanism clicking. The bright screen illuminated the room, and the distinctive jingle of the Game Boy booting up echoed in my ears like an old friend's voice. It was just as I remembered, pixelated graphics, cheerful music, a perfect nostalgia trip. The first few games reflected my cousin's life. I laughed as I saw titles like Pokemon Red and The Legend of Zelda: Link's Awakening. Each game transported me back to afternoons spent strategizing triumphs over gym leaders and dodgeball matches at recess, innocence wrapped in colorful pixels. But as I reached for the last cartridge, the feeling of excitement turned unsettling. I couldn't shake the anxiety gnawing at my thoughts. The last game was one I hadn't seen before, simply titled Adventure Quest. I hesitated, breath catching as I powered it up, and instinctively, my blood ran cold. The file name stared back at me, but it was the last save file that elicited the deepest chill. Future_baby name. It was eerily specific, invoking a name I hadn't even considered sharing with my partner yet. How could it possibly know? The screen flickered ominously, and the vivid color seemed to drain away. I couldn't convince myself it was just a glitch or some cruel joke. Rushing thoughts flooded my mind, questions, doubts, fear. Maybe this was all just some kind of mistake, an elaborate prank. But the waves of uncertainty washed over me with relentless force. I had to know more. I dug deeper into the memory-laden spaces of my childhood. What if this was just a mix-up? Checking the earlier save files, everything had seemed normal, reflecting typical moments of my cousin's school years in 1999, a year that seemed so far removed from my present. Yet here I was, sitting before the digital remnants of my past, grappling with the possible future laid out before me. Then, curiosity morphed into paranoia. I began connecting dots that weren't meant to align. The more I played, the more the game revealed strange incidents, perfectly hitting moments that I had once shared with my cousin. Each cartridge told a story of a grade completed, victories achieved, and hardships faced. But it was in the final moments of gameplay when the metadata screamed at me. Who could have designed this twisted tale written in code? Who could have anticipated this strange journey across time? Was this even possible? I thought, mulling over what synthetic magic could conjure together players of two timelines. An absurd idea forming in my mind began weaving through the very fabric of reality I thought I understood. Surely there had to be a logical explanation. Scanning through forums online, I read about theories of retrocausality, how actions could be influenced by future events. But nothing seemed to fit the uncanny reality that lined the walls of my digital realm. If this is making your heart race, I whispered to myself in disbelief, hit that like button. Trust me, it only gets stranger. What I couldn't quell, though, was the dread that draped over me as I unearthed further anomalies that mirrored my present-day life. The first save files reflected achievements I had long forgotten, yet they all mirrored my own adventures alongside my cousin. I could hear his laughter echoing through my mind, yet I was tormented by the anticipation of finding future occurrences nestled in the code. What was this lurking feeling? Uncanny and foreboding. The revelations grew denser like a fog rolling in across the shore, each moment playing out like an eerie tale unfolded upon me. More disappointments clashed with budding revelations. The unpredictability began to spiral beyond comprehension. Their very essence bore familiarity that shouldn't have existed outside the script itself. There was watching involved, I began rationalizing to myself, perhaps skeptical friends sounding alarms about how being a part of it felt more like a performance than a memory. I realized soon that step-by-step unraveling tales would raise questions operating in dimensions shaped by unseen forces. I knew then that to prepare my reality was to grasp at threads of events once guided by instinct. I had to initiate change if any hope remained to break free from this becoming so predestined. I grasped for the cartridges, desperately seeking interventions hinted at within their growing lore. Each save told stories that felt less like past experiences and more like whispering prophecies waiting to see if I would play my part. My travels into old-school gaming begat a growing unease when I recognized a pattern and purpose, an unfolding tragedy playing out both in pixels and in context before me. It was a chilling thought that perhaps every decision I sought to change would only lock me deeper into the mechanics of choices I had not authored. Am I merely acting out a role? The fear wrestled at me. I had to do something, anything, to ensure that I would not just become another pawn in an unchanging plot. Yet, in the midst of this all, the revelation bore an essence just as tangible. If these harrowing events rang to you, I thought as I replayed the timeline on those fragile chips, hit that thanks button. A trembling hand could pull at one last thread of resolve, ignite renewed hope in following decisions that didn't feel so preordained anymore. Every click into the future bore with it consequences too deep to fathom. I expected to find comfort in rekindling the familiar, yet every moment only drew me closer to the uncanny confinement within gaming tropes. What lay ahead was neither foreboding nor agreeable, ever twisting down corridors that my cousin and I shaped 5 years apart. This felt like much more than a nostalgic reminder. I turned to examine another uncanny save. The birth of my unborn son, intricately detailed and pinned like a butterfly under glass, a moment waiting to unfurl itself in time. With frantic excitement and mounting dread, I swept deeper into the patterns laid before me, piecing together adventures that felt uncharted as familiar archives began to twist and spiral through time. I must huddle around a screen where pixels promised a story far beyond mere escape. As I stared deeper into the game, nostalgia waned under the weight of knowledge. The save files twisted around themselves, revealing facts too surreal to be mere coincidence. Time did not exist as I was led to believe. It danced like shades upon this tapestry. Suddenly, everything became a blend of past events mixed with tales that hadn't even occurred. And while I encountered new oddities within their fleeting interacts, I couldn't escape the pull. I've cataloged each strange encounter with temporal anomalies tied to vintage gaming tech. Revisiting those cartridges somehow exposed paths that we could not tread upon alone, as if the coding were histories laid bare across swirling timelines. There was only one series emerging and unraveling layers of impossibility. Reality ebbed and flowed like reflections on a stream, pulling me toward a conclusion that was ultimately elusive. Choices flickered through a loop, tethering moments without signs of release. It was time's puppetry, an intricate weave beneath ambitions crafted by hands shaped by time itself. All these glitches, all these predictions, they were designed as cautionary tales, not simply warnings. They carried within them a thread of agency yet to be expelled into the unforeseen futures ahead. And as my finger hesitated on the power button, I felt the crushing weight of centuries past, the breadcrumbs trailing through time. I glanced at the once vibrant cartridges, my heart heavy. There lay the essence, the legacy of a shared history with my cousin that danced amidst time's unfurling tendrils. It wasn't just a collection, I thought absently, nor binware left behind. It was a carefully inscribed message that time had inscribed deep within futures yet to be unveiled, spanning generations across our bloodlines, a spiraling circle while my world shifted. Lost in thought, I felt a strange tug at my resolve, compelling me back to play, even knowing I may uncover something unwanted, a final enigma that would ask of clarity and choice anew. No longer merely a relic left behind, but a persistent tether reaching through uncertainty, forcing clarity about the complexities we painted as space and time warped before me. Each cartridge a written testament for those who'd come after me, turning into whispers seeking a voice that would ultimately remain undefined. The trembling in my hands intensified as I flipped through the resumes of saved games, each one an echo of laughter and late nights spent with my cousin. The mechanics of Adventure Quest sparked layers of nostalgia within me, yet that one save file, the one bearing the cryptic anticipation of my unborn son's name, shredded the warm fabric of memory into a shivering reminder of how little I truly understood. I couldn't shake the thought that this was more than just an eerie oversight. It felt like an unshakable tether across time, pulling me deeper into the shadows of possibilities. Pushing my apprehension aside, I powered up the game again, the dim glow revealing the pixelated landscapes I once traversed without fear. Choosing my character, I moved through this animated world filled with familiar monsters and quests. With each click of the buttons, memories bubbled up, exhilarating victories against virtual foes, triumphs that resonated warmly with the laughs shared. Yet now, those victories tasted bittersweet, tainted against the backdrop of what was revealed. Nameless faces stared back, concealed in a veil of ambiguity. As I swept deeper into the gameplay, I found a flickering sense of dread building inside me. Breath quickened. What if my cousin had foreseen my life's trajectory? In this adventure, it wasn't merely a game anymore. It felt like the threads woven by hands unseen, guiding me toward an inevitable end I could not escape. Frantically, I checked the earlier save files, searching for comfort amidst the chaos. I recalled that final day we spent gaming, the candlelight flickering on a chilly autumn night. I could visualize him, his youthful determination illuminated with each passing level. Those memories now felt heavy with what I was forced to consider. Could it be that he had passed through death but not left me entirely? Yet that warmth struggled against the anxiety gnawing at my consciousness. Adventure Quest should contain no foresight into my future. It was merely a conduit for youthful transgressions. I clenched my jaw, fighting against the irrational terror spiraling at the edges of my sanity. I had to understand the implications of this save file. It was as if I was handed a script, foreshadowing a life beyond my control. There was something undeniably unsettling about the way memories entwined with this digital narrative. What if time was more pliable than I had ever conceptualized? Every minute spent navigating the game felt less like escape and more like an intricate design locking me into a path I hadn't chosen. Drawing a breath, I steeled myself against the chilling implications stirring in the pit of my stomach as I scrolled through save files that intertwined with my realities. If this is making your heart race, I muttered to myself, hit that like button. In the back of my mind, an anxiety manifested as enthusiasm. Whatever lay ahead beckoned. Anxiety washed over me, revealing layers of unease I hadn't anticipated while returning to these bright, lively cartridges. I began piecing together a narrative that mirrored my own life, uncovering uncanny resonances that twisted cheer to despair. And yet, while immersed, the notion that I would uncover something unwanted, the absolute knowledge that I stood before a choice connecting past and future, seemed both thrilling and terrifying. Confronting choices unscripted, each revelation surged forward, layered over the others, creating uncharted paths interwoven through experience. With each click, there was a growing consciousness that something profound was unfurling at the edge of my understanding, leading me into questions I had never wanted to ask. I realized that this was no mere archive, but a persistent tether, reaching through uncertainty, bearing the residue of loss and legacy. The cartridges held more than memories. They carried whispers forging connections between lives entwined in the unpredictable narrative of time. As I stared deeply into the game, it didn't feel merely like revisiting a childhood joy. Each act of play poured over me like ink onto a blank page, a canvas still waiting to reveal its secrets. I finally made the decision to dig deeper. As I transitioned from the initial jolt of discovering the save file titled future_babyname, I realized I was navigating far more than just a game. I was retracing not only my cousin's gaming history, but also the very fabric of our childhood, intertwining it with my future in ways I had never imagined. Pushing through the discomfort, I ventured into the first few save files again, seeking connections to bygone days. Each cartridge ignited a wave of nostalgia, reminding me of weekends spent battling it out in pixelated arenas. My cousin, always joyfully competitive, had been my partner in crime, absolving me of failures with a grin that spoke of unreserved joy rather than judgment. The memories fanned out before me, as vivid and bright as the colors on the cartridges themselves. Pokemon Blue, Donkey Kong Country, and The Legend of Zelda. Each game encapsulated significant milestones during his school years, 2nd grade, 4th grade, and 6th grade, guiding us through the turbulent waters of growing up. I thought of the hours wasted in carefree delight, sitting shoulder to shoulder, jubilant cries echoing in our shared childhood haven. Those cartridges were more than just relics. They were keys to moments I desperately longed to relive. Yet as my heart swelled with tranquility, shadows flickered around the edges of those cherished memories. I noticed that each save file contained an unfurling narrative. Parts of his life unfolded through triumphs, school, and everyday teenage chaos. I remembered how he'd talk about future ambitions. He had dreamt of exploring the world and discovering treasures far beyond the limitations of our small town. But now it all felt tinted. The nostalgia woven through the pixels brought a sense of sorrow, a reminder of choices and paths not taken. Each victory seemed laced with a hidden weight, as if someday within those triumphs lay an unsettling truth. Was there an element of foresight embedded in those playful engagements? Every click of buttons echoed more than just sound. It was like a heartbeat. I had to dig deep, beyond the game's facade. How could the past relate to the unpredictable threads of my future? Then it struck me. What if this journey was more than a simple stroll down memory lane? What if these save files were not just his past, but also reflections of the possible futures? A manifestation of time itself, with every game encapsulating moments we were still yet to live. Suddenly, I felt overwhelmed by the realization that time could be so pliable, its very foundation more fragile than I had comprehended. The unsettling unease crept back as I contemplated this revelation. The laughter and triumphs I had cherished started to blur. Could my cousin have known something I didn't? With a newfound urgency coursing through my veins, I turned my attention back to the games. The stories were not complete. They were merely fragments waiting for connection. As I scrolled through the files, excitement pulsed beside a streak of dread. If you want to hear more stories about forgotten childhood tech that turned eerie, I murmured, subscribe to the channel. My voice trembled slightly, but it felt right. Because what I found in these 6 Game Boy Color cartridges was only the beginning. I froze, my heart racing. Each revelation drew me deeper into the enigma. The nostalgic software that had once symbolized carefree afternoons now carried potential secrets that felt heavier each moment I played. The uncharted territory, revealed pixel by pixel, made me grasp for the non-linear connections threaded through time. What was waiting just beyond the curtain of pixels? I felt as though I was at a precipice, ready to plunge head first into an abyss of understanding, or perhaps madness. With trepidation, I held the final cartridge in my hand, contemplating the ticking clock of my life with all its intertwining decisions that could reflect across these innocent games. They felt less like artifacts of joy and more like instruments of fate unraveling before me. I braced myself for the unknown, the path forward paved with both trepidation and intrigue, and pressed the button to dive back into the realm of my childhood, hoping to discover answers that would bridge my past with the uncertain future awaiting me. With a deep breath, I pressed start on Adventure Quest, a ripple of anxiety shooting through me as the familiar music echoed in the room. As the screen lit up, I was once again thrust into a pixelated world that held both comfort and danger. A part of me longed for the simplicity of those carefree days with my cousin, but an ominous weight settled over my heart as I recalled the uncanny associations we had unearthed. Choosing my character, I navigated through the lush worlds. The vibrant colors of trees and creatures that once marked afternoons of laughter now felt foreboding, almost as if they were trying to hide secrets better left buried. I grabbed the first quest, a typical fetch mission, but the simplicity of it barely masked the underlying currents of tension that twisted through my mind. This time, I waded deeper into the gameplay, facing off against monsters that echoed the struggles I faced in reality. Each enemy I fought transformed into a reminder of obstacles I encountered in my life. As I slayed each beast, I felt a rising sense of triumph, but with it, a gnawing doubt hung over me. Each battle felt less like a nod to childhood gaming and more like an exploration of fate. With every click, the revelation snapped into focus. I had landed in a labyrinthine narrative, each save file grounding me in memories that were prophecies touching upon paths I had yet to take. A creeping sense of dread intertwined with the thrill of discovery, and I found the lines of past and present beginning to blur. Was my cousin showing me something I needed to see? My fingers danced over the controls as I returned to previous save files, each revealing a thread of destiny. The characters felt eerily familiar, shifts in their narratives mirroring choices I had yet to make in my own life. I could sense whispers between the pixels, like echoes of possibilities I was supposed to uncover. Could it be? I wondered, a pulse of anxiety threading through me. Is this game charting a path? While lost in contemplation, I confronted another quest. As I overcame challenges and collected items, the screen filled with details that seemed too personal. I felt an urge to reach out, to connect back with my cousin somehow. Was he aware of the shadows he cast through time, anticipating these very moments of connection? Sweat beaded on my brow, and as I progressed, I heard myself murmuring, "If this is sending shivers down your spine?" I paused, keeping my voice steady. Hit that like button. The act felt significant, a ritual acknowledgement of the overwhelming experience unfolding before me. I feared that straying from this path could mean abandoning all the revelations lurking just below the surface. With a mix of curiosity and fear, I approached the final vault, a treasure chest glowing invitingly on the screen. It radiated an energy that thrummed through me, evoking memories filled with joy, laughter, and bitter nostalgia. Would this reveal the way forward? The truth buried beneath layers of game mechanics and memories long since faded. As my character approached the chest, the narrative flourished around the screen, intertwining details from my cousin's life, breathing life into the storyline. I felt my heart pounding. Had he left me this gift to show the impact of choices? What wisdom lay nestled within this box of secrets, waiting to surface? With cautious optimism, I lifted the lid in-game, and before me spilled not treasure, but intricately woven messages, pages depicting lives yet to unfold, strung together by fate and choice. They spilled forth, infusing the air with the urgency of truths binding me to my family history. It wasn't merely a convergence of past and future, it was destiny laid bare, mapping every decision, every joy, and every sorrow. Each word rang true, rendering my thoughts fragile yet empowered. Calibrated against my own choices, they beckoned me to a deeper understanding of how all our lives were entwined across time. However, the weight of realization became heavier, urging me to confront the looming question: was I merely a player in a script written long before I existed? What was my role in this vast narrative? Driven by adrenaline, I leaned forward. This experience was unlike anything I had encountered. I felt the heartbeat of time beneath my fingertips, desperate to breach its artificial constraints. There was no turning back now. Engaging with the game meant diving deeper into the possibilities waiting just beyond the veil, a leap I had to take to uncover my place within both my cousin's legacy and a future bound by our shared story. The answers awaited me, but first I had to navigate this nexus of past and future, a choice I was now ready to embrace. I pressed onward, the excitement weaving through every fiber of my being, armed with the knowledge that I was about to uncover something extraordinary, something tied irrevocably to my existence. As I lifted the lid of the treasure chest in Adventure Quest, a flurry of images erupted from the screen, swirling around my vision like autumn leaves caught in a windstorm. Instead of gems or gold, I was met with a cascading wave of text, fleeting stories, what appeared to be choices, and glimmers of futures yet unwritten. My heart raced as I began to sift through it all, overwhelmed by the pulsating energy emanating from the pixels. The messages were vivid. It felt as if my cousin's spirit breathed through the words, sketching an outline of lives intertwined through the subtle fabric of our shared existence. The stories laid bare, not just warnings or lessons, but a tapestry of decisions that guided me through my life, lessons that whispered about the choices made long before I was even born. Then, one of the entries caught my eye, the day the future changed. Instinctively, I leaned closer, my breath quickening. The day was dated months before my birth. Its contents outlined an event I had only heard of in passing conversations, a moment that had prompted profound choices in my family's history. I read about conversations my parents had on that day, dreams they shared, and decisions that ultimately steered our lives in a particular direction. The horrors of discovery clawed at me as I pieced together the paradox. How could my cousin have known about time, moments that hadn't yet manifested? I felt dizzy, as if standing on the edge of two worlds. Not just the reality I inhabited, but the underlying structures of life permeated with time's elasticity. The urge to reach out surged within me again. I needed someone else to grasp what I was experiencing. "Have you ever had a moment like this?" I uttered aloud into the empty room, voice trembling with emotion. Drop a comment below. I need to know if anyone has ever touched the layers of their past to unearth echoes of their futures. I felt a strange camaraderie with whoever else would listen, a connection bound by the inexplicable. The more I explored, the more realizations cascaded through my consciousness, interlinking and weaving into a hypnotic dance. Was this truly the past speaking to me? Was it scripting my future? Each entry made it clear that my choices carried weight, and the wisdom embedded in my cousin's story demanded confrontation. Through the riddle of gameplay and within the tales of love, loss, and determination, I uncovered echoes of my dreams and ambitions, some whispering sweetly, others striking hard like a slap of ice. I saw faces, shadows lurking on the periphery of my life, guiding me, influencing decisions that I thought stemmed from my own will. Who were these figures rooted in my past, pulling at the strings of my fate? Every thrust into the narrative brought dread, yet exhilaration reminded me I had agency. I could break free if only I made the right choices. I began to see parallels between the fantastical elements of the game and my experiences. The challenges laid before me, the dragons to slay, obstacles to overcome, were synaptic mirrors of challenges unfolding in the real world. Could this be a way of guiding my choices, pushing me to confront elements I had long buried? As I absorbed the messages and experienced the growing urgency, I realized I was being trained to acknowledge the layers of my existence. The game was not a mere escape. It had morphed into a vital part of my identity, and the family saga bathed in shared connections. I was tasked with piecing together their journeys while forging my own. In a surge of resolve, I scrolled further, each click resonating. What if completing this quest meant taking ownership of my story? What would it take to unearth my destiny threaded with my cousin's whispers and those of my ancestors? I breathed in the overwhelming sensations, ready to plunge further into exploration. The legacy awaiting me churned within like a boiling cauldron. The story seemingly spun in such complexity beckoned me to choose wisely, for each decision would ripple across epochs, echoing generations. A single file captured my attention, the title reading, "The Choices of a Silent Past." Sparkling with the glow of enlightenment, it repeated the themes I had encountered, yet urged me to explore decisions that seemed inadvertently cloistered. Within its passages were untold stories, exposing love and remorse, choices and consequences threading through generations. I couldn't help but think of my cousin's adventurous spirit. Was he guiding me from the beyond, urging me to adapt, to transform myself through the choices laid bare in front of me? What if I could redefine the paths paved for those who came before me? The realization sunk deep. Every button I pressed mattered. The exploration through this digital landscape wasn't merely for nostalgia. Each boundary I crossed could shape the future born into my life, one where my son would eventually be joined by legacies marked with hope instead of repeated cycles of sorrow. As I plowed onward, pressing through the final layers, I could feel the essence of time flowing like a river around me. With each revelation, I bent the narrative, molding it into something new, something vast with potential. Nothing could remain stagnant. The future demanded imagination, courage, and the wisdom gleaned from those who lived before me. Within that chest of secrets and possibilities, I understood my task. I had to confront the shadows of the past to illuminate the way forward, rejecting any notion that life predetermined outcomes. I was no mere player in a game, but a storyteller poised to claim ownership of my narrative. With a surge of excitement, I looked back at the screen, the glow illuminating my face. The stories and their echoes intertwined, calling me deeper, forward into this uncharted expanse of time and legacy. With each pulse of the screen's glow, I felt the weight of expectation settle on my shoulders. The stories pouring out of the treasure chest carried the echoes of my family's history, each delicate thread offering insight into who I was meant to become. But buried within those narratives were also warnings, tales of choices that had birthed repercussions cascading through time. I focused on the file labeled "The Choices of a Silent Past." Its words shimmered with urgency, urging me to dissect the unvoiced decisions and the pain they had caused. As I skimmed the text, the realization hit me that every family history contained truths unspoken, stories of sacrifice left untold, and the weight of silence demanding acknowledgement. What had my family buried behind closed doors, and how had it shaped not only my reality, but also the choices I faced in the present? My fingers trembled against the controls as I navigated through the intricacies of our past. I stumbled upon a story marked by loss after choices made in anger resulted in broken relationships. The pain felt fresh even after all these years, and I could hear the silence hanging heavy like a dark cloud over the family reunion dinners where tension simmered just beneath the surface. Was I destined to repeat the cycle? The haunting thought clung to me. The realization surged forward. My agency existed within these narratives. The choices my ancestors made could hold power over my own path, but only if I let them. I needed to confront this legacy of silence, to lift the veil obscuring truths long hidden. What if I could rewrite our story? I whispered into the quiet room, the weight of potential making my heart race. The challenge unfurled before me like a map, intricate and daunting. The choice lay within my grasp. Acknowledge the past, illuminate the shadows, and forge a new narrative that honored my ancestors while defining my own fate. As the gravity of the situation settled deeper into my consciousness, I searched for motivation. Every pixel reflecting a moment of understanding. Every fragment of narrative a thread connecting me to those who had come before. All were uniting in a single pivotal recognition. I could break the chain. If this journey resonates with you, I found my voice carrying out into the stillness, consider hitting that thanks button below. The act felt monumental. With each contribution, I affirmed not just my struggle, but also honored the voices of my past that led me here. I was creating a dialogue with the unseen, bridging gaps between generations and weaving a richer tapestry of shared experiences. The urgency of this endeavor fueled my imagination, sharpening my focus. Instead of merely replaying the past, I was ready to build associations, delving into the labyrinth of inherited stories and crafting a pathway leading to new understanding. What choices lay before me? What shadows demanded illumination? The answers awaited just beyond the horizon of possibility. All I had to do was choose. With newfound determination, I made my way toward the next file titled The Weight of Lost Dreams. As the opening words filled the screen, I felt a shiver of recognition. I could see my parents mirrored in these narratives. Stories of aspirations that had been overlooked or abandoned in favor of practicality. Every tale came flooding back, the aspirations so vibrant, yet silenced by the world's demands. Yet, what of my own dreams? Uncertainty tickled my throat, and fear clung to me like a fog. The challenge lay in discerning between inherited doubt and the pure essence of my aspirations. In this moment of doubt, I could feel the echoes of encouragement from my cousin, his adventurous spirit urging me not to back down, reminding me that my journey was as valid as any other. Emotion swirled within me. The weight of these narratives felt lighter now, almost liberating, as I realized one clear truth. While I had inherited the burdens of the past, I also held the keys to unshackle them. The stories could serve as foundations to build upon, rather than chains binding me to a preordained path. As I steered into this exploration of lost dreams and unspoken truths, the warmth of possibility enveloped me like sunlight breaking through the clouds. Here, within this merging of the past and future, I understood the potential for growth. The opportunity not only to acknowledge the legacy of my family, but to transform it into something powerful, vibrant, and reflective of who I was becoming. Emboldened, I embraced the screen, every revelation now a whisper of encouragement. I was ready to step into my narrative and forge connections anew, honoring the dreams of my ancestors while envisioning my own future. Through this exploration born of nostalgia, I had found the courage to be the architect of my own destiny. It was time to move forward, navigating the intricate pathways of life with conviction, purpose, and the shackles of silence finally shattered behind me. As I delved into The Weight of Lost Dreams, the words felt like a whisper beckoning me to re-examine what I had buried deep within myself. Each sentence seemed to resonate with my own experiences, echoes of unfulfilled ambitions and hopes misplaced. I could see the faces of my parents vividly as I read, their vibrant aspirations starkly contrasted against the backdrop of their choices made out of obligation or fear. The hard truth emerged. Their dreams had become muted under the pressure of practicality. I sensed sorrow threading through the stories, a collective grief enveloping their abandoned aspirations. The burden they bore was palpable. It begged the question, how many dreams did they sacrifice for security?
I leaned forward, adrenaline coursing through me. The haunting question remained, could I reclaim those dreams? Their voices simmered beneath the surface of my own reality, yearning to be acknowledged, to be transformed into fuel for my aspirations. But how could I reconcile my own uncertainties with the weight of my family's legacy? Suddenly, the reflection of my cousin flashed in my mind, a beacon of the adventurous spirit that once propelled me forward. "You have the right to dream," I could almost hear him say. His adventurous soul ignited a fire within me, a call to navigate the vast terrain of my potential, embracing vulnerability and risk instead of shying away. My pulse quickened as I pondered how I could channel my heritage into a new, brighter story that interwove hope with a recognition of past pain. The challenge was mine to accept. Harness the lessons buried in my family's narrative and transform them into a foundation for my future. With renewed determination, I reminded myself that the journey ahead would not be undertaken alone. If you want to explore these layers and unlock the truths they hold, consider joining the channel membership, I urged, my voice steady with conviction. Together, we can dive deeper into these stories and uncover the hidden connections that influence our lives. Inviting others into this exploration felt empowering. Our collective energies could forge the new paths we desperately sought. As I continued scrolling through the digital pages, I felt emboldened. Each line was a note in a grand symphony, inviting me to join the chorus. I knew I had the potential to reshape the narrative, forging my unique path forward, one filled with meaning, connection, and authentic pursuit of my dreams. I envisioned a future where my humblest ambitions weren't stifled but celebrated, where unforgotten aspirations would blossom anew. The stories in the game shaped themselves into quiet reminders. Love had endured silence, regrets had birthed wisdom, and lost dreams could be rekindled. Beneath each layer lay the shards of life's beauty, the resilience threaded through every failure and every moment of vulnerability. But alongside that beauty, another realization hit me like a wave. I had the choice to cycle through the pain of their unfulfilled dreams or use their stories as launch points for my own aspirations. The magnitude of this choice weighed heavily, yet I felt a surge of empowerment surging through my veins. I hadn't inherited just their burdens. I possessed their resolve as well. With that, I moved toward the file titled Second Chances. There, I found stories of redemption, the turning points where regrets transformed into newfound vitality. Each tale illuminated the power of choice, acting as a reminder that it was never too late to reset the narrative. The notion of second chances sent a tremor of hope coursing through me. What if I could embody that spirit in my own life? The urge to act surged anew. The past no longer needed to dictate my fate. As I navigated through these stories, their lessons became my survival guide, each letter on the screen morphing into a stepping stone toward an expansive future brimming with possibility. I was ready to honor their legacies, learning from their stories while crafting an entirely new chapter, my chapter. As second chances unfolded into messages of hope and transformation, I reveled in the embrace of possibility. I would not be shackled by the silence of a bygone era. I could be the author of my tale. With every choice I made, I would step lightly upon the ashes of long-lost dreams, igniting them into a fiery testament of what could be. With the knowledge of the stakes laid bare, I braced myself as the journey ahead beckoned. My dreams weren't just my own. They belonged to generations that came before, intertwined with my identity in ways I was still uncovering. Every line I read urged me to embrace not just the past, but the infinite possibilities that lay before me. With resolve, I moved forward, ready to merge the lessons of those who had shaped me with newfound ambition ignited by their stories. My narrative awaited, rich with dreams I had yet to dream, and I would write it with courage, guided by the whispers of the past echoing through the chambers of my heart. As I delved into second chances, a new wave of energy coursed through me, invigorating my spirit and lighting the path ahead. Each tale of redemption I encountered was like a beacon piercing through the fog of regret, illuminating the pathways where choices had once lain dormant. These were stories of turning points, moments that had once felt insurmountable, but ultimately led to astonishing transformations. I realized that in those shimmering narratives was the promise that it was never too late to chart a different course. One entry struck me profoundly. It described a great-grandmother who, after losing everything, had set out to reclaim her life. Trapped in a small town where everyone knew her failures, she found the courage to leave behind the weight of outdated expectations, reinventing herself in a dazzling city where she could be someone new. I felt the fire kindling in my chest. Had I not been on a similar journey? Had I not also felt the pull of a fresh beginning, longing to carve my identity beyond the borders of my familial legacy? Her story resonated with me deeply, urging me to consider what limitations I had accepted as my reality. The transformation was not just about the physical act of moving. It was about shedding the identities imposed by others, flipping the script, and stepping boldly into the unknown, embracing vulnerability as a powerful asset. Emotional layers began to peel away, revealing aspirations I once feared to acknowledge. If she could do it, why couldn't I thought fervently, ignited by the possibilities. My great-grandmother had embarked on her journey with nothing but her dreams, an echo of courage that now reverberated through my veins. The realization sank in. I could answer the call of the unknown, lean into discomfort, and wrap my ambitions in the radiant fabric of potential. With each additional story revealed in the file, I unearthed the voices that had long been muted, the dreams that had withered in the shadows slowly starting to blossom anew. A pattern emerged among the tales. Each story illustrated that second chances weren't merely handed out. They were forged by having the courage to leap, to unearth hidden desires waiting for acknowledgement. However, that leap had to be grounded in conscious choices and intentions. It wasn't enough to feel inspired. I needed to act. The weight of their dreams pressed upon my heart, urging me to transform that inspiration into tangible steps toward my aspirations. I couldn't squander the momentum I felt surging within me. Driven to harness this newfound energy, I turned to the next file, titled The Legacy of Our Choices. It was a fitting reminder that every singular decision rippled outward, shaping not only my narrative, but the far-reaching paths of others as well. I began to understand that my choices were like seeds, capable of blossoming into a garden of opportunities for myself and future generations. The themes interlaced seamlessly as I engaged deeper. My ancestor stories highlighted their mistakes and triumphs, offering guided prompts that encouraged me to view each situation I faced as a potential turning point. What will you choose? The question echoed in my mind relentlessly. The sense of accountability began to dissolve the lingering doubts I once harbored. As moments of reflection cascaded through me, I glanced at the screen's scrolling text. Every word melded with my heart's pulsating rhythm. Suddenly, it struck me. If I grasped the necessity of reclaiming these lessons, how many others could benefit as well?
If you're intrigued by these stories and want to explore them more thoroughly, I said, the words pouring from my lips with earnestness, grab the full ebook. It's a treasure trove of journeys to inspire your own narrative. Each chapter contained the hopes and dreams of those who had traversed these challenges before me, a map filled with pathways leading to new possibilities. Such knowledge deserved to be shared, especially as I stood on the precipice of change. Enthralled by the deepest lessons woven within each line, I began to piece together a blueprint, not merely for my life, but as a guide to navigating the complexities shared with those who had come after me. The ebook was more than a collection of stories. It offered a sense of community, threading us together in the pursuit of understanding our legacies. With courageous resolve, I typed out my thoughts, weaving together the wisdom gleaned from those who had come before me and my dreams dancing tantalizingly just out of reach. Empowered by their stories, I embraced the possibility of creating a legacy, a promise to myself that I would honor their sacrifices while striving toward fulfillment for generations yet to come. As I turned each page of possibility, an exhilarating clarity washed over me. Creating a future filled with hope, acknowledging losses, and harnessing second chances would be my defining narrative. No longer would I tread cautiously, shackled by the echoes of the past. Instead, I would stride boldly forward, fueled by both the scars and the triumphs of those who had forged the paths I was destined to tread. Inside the cozy embrace of nostalgia mixed with newfound hope, I felt the urge to write, documenting the tapestry of interconnected lives and illuminating the stories surrounding us as if each one were a flickering flame, dancing fervently in unison. I was finally ready to become the author of my own destiny, armed with the knowledge that second chances weren't just available, they were mine for the taking. As I moved toward the file titled The Legacy of Our Choices, I felt a rush of anticipation. The resonance of past decisions swirling in my mind served as a potent reminder of how choices could either bind or liberate. Every page turned echoed with the weight of history, revealing not just my family's stories, but their struggles and successes. This was a dimension I had long neglected, one filled with ample lessons urging me to grasp the steering wheel of my own destiny. What will you choose? It resounded like a drumbeat, gaining momentum as I navigated through tales of fortitude and fragility. I realized that this file encapsulated the essential truth of existence, the butterfly effect of each decision, how seemingly small choices could ripple through time, shaping lives beyond our own. I was standing at a crossroads with the power to redirect both my path and, in turn, influence generations to come. Instinctively, I felt an undeniable kinship with the struggles depicted in the narratives. Each character faced obstacles that resonated deeply within me, moments that felt insurmountable but eventually became stepping stones toward profound change. Courage and vulnerability intertwined, teaching me that to fail is part of the human experience, yet the choice to rise again is what renders us truly extraordinary. It was easy to feel disheartened by the weight of expectations, whether self-imposed or inherited. But as I absorbed each story, shadows of doubt began to dissipate, revealing a vibrant landscape where hope flourished. The enormity of these realizations spurred me onward, igniting a fierce resolve within. My past did not define me. My choices did. Suddenly, like stars aligning, clarity washed over me. I grasped that transforming my understanding into action was paramount. The potential for fulfillment lay at my fingertips, but I needed to heed the call for bold decisions. Immersed in this exploration, I found a common thread linking my experiences with those who came before me. I envisioned weaving a rich tapestry of stories, not only for my benefit, but for those searching for their place amidst the chaos of existence. If you resonate with this journey, I said, my voice steady as the words left my lips, consider hitting that thanks button below.
Your support makes it possible to share these narratives and foster connections that weave us together, transcending time and space. Each contribution felt monumental, not just for me, but as a rallying cry for unity among those navigating the complex landscape of their own legacies. The more I spoke, the stronger my conviction grew. This was no ordinary collection of family histories. It was a testament to resilience, a clarion call for choice and agency. I would honor not only my lineage, but also their drive to carve a future laden with hope and authenticity. The act of giving, from the echoes of my ancestors to the community of storytellers I longed to build, was an essential piece of this puzzle. Reinvigorated by purpose, I resumed my exploration through the file. The emotional landscapes unveiled through the legacy of decision-making encouraged me to scrutinize my own life. Where had I allowed fear to dictate my choices? What possibilities had I overlooked simply because they seemed unattainable? The act revealed everything, examples of individuals who shattered societal expectations, venturing into uncharted waters where innovation and creativity thrived. These stories offered a compass, illuminating the myriad ways to redefine paths previously deemed impossible. And just when I thought I had uncovered all the layers of wisdom, a particular story resonated so strongly it felt like my own. It spoke of a distant cousin who had taken the leap to start her own business, fueled by a passion for painting. Against all odds, she transformed her art into a thriving venture, inspiring those around her to pursue their genuine passions. In that moment, I felt a profound connection to her journey, as if her spirit danced alongside mine. It awakened a fervent desire to pursue my own creative endeavors, to funnel the lessons learned from both her triumphs and my family's histories into realizing dreams I had shelved away for far too long. The potential of a brighter future flickered before me, akin to stars illuminating a dark canvas. I could feel the divine synchronicity of the universe at play, nudging me toward my true calling while simultaneously urging me to release my fears. I had the power to emerge from this reflective journey as a catalyst for change in my own life. It was time to shape my legacy with intention, breathing life into dreams that had taken a back seat to expectations. Filling my mind with visions of possibilities, I intentionally crafted resolutions, envisioning each step, each bold move as an act of defiance against the silent weight of unfulfilled aspirations. As the file came to an end, my heart raced with the electrifying promise of action. Armed with knowledge and an unwavering resolve, I was ready to step forward, not just as a keeper of my family's stories, but as an author of my destiny. The pen was now firmly in my hand, and I would wield it to tell a new tale, one infused with authentic choices and vibrant dreams brought to life. Every story echoed within me, retelling what it meant to forge a legacy grounded not just in the struggles of the past, but rich in creativity and hope. It was this wondrous intersection of shared experiences and personal aspirations that would guide the way forward. With invigorated hope, I embraced my narrative, proudly preparing to etch each chapter onto the fabric of my life. A tapestry woven not only with the threads of courage from those before me, but with bold strokes of new dreams just waiting to be realized. My choices would craft a legacy worthy of the voices that had whispered their truths in the dark. They made way for a vibrant future shimmering with possibility. With the file on The Legacy of Our Choices closed, I felt a curious mix of exhilaration and trepidation as I stood on the brink of transformation. The stories I had encountered were no longer distant echoes of the past. They were now profoundly intertwined with my present. The lessons carved from struggles and triumphs began to take shape, solidifying a vision of the future I had once thought too bold to pursue. I glanced back at the screen where the narratives flickered faintly, inviting me to dig deeper, to meld their wisdom with my own ambitions. Each account danced vividly in my mind, illuminating the common threads that bound us together across generations. I realized then that it was time to embrace my role in this ongoing saga, a story not merely of survival, but of thriving, sparks igniting change. As I began drafting my outline for the future, matching aspirations with the stories I'd unearthed, a surge of determination surged through me. The weight of my family's decisions could no longer dictate my choices. Instead, I would channel their experiences into my journey, using them as stepping stones rather than shackles. I was ready to seize the narrative, to transform echoes of disappointment into bold opportunities for growth. The urgency of my purpose became unmistakable. This was my moment to leap forward. If you wish to discover more about the stories that shaped not only my family, but countless others, I implored into the quiet room, don't miss the chance to grab the full ebook. In those digital pages lay an intricate tapestry of collective experiences and insights. It was a resource ripe for the taking, promising to guide anyone willing to explore their own legacies. Engagement surged through my heart. Rallying against the weights of silence and sorrow felt empowering. I envisioned how readers would connect with the shared wisdom within the ebook, allowing them to untangle their own narratives, turning pages in their minds. Together, we could illuminate paths too obscured by darkness, a community bound by vulnerability and the shared pursuit of depth. I took a moment to reflect on the rippling impact that our choices could wield and how honesty in those decisions could become a source of strength. The stories I had connected with provided not only inspiration for my journey, but a roadmap rich with insights for others navigating similar complexities. Flipping through my notes, I reorganized my central themes, recognizing the journeys of those who had bravely faced their struggles. They had transformed fear into resolve. They had alchemized dreams deferred into powerful stories of resilience. Imagine if I could do that too, I mused. If they could redefine their legacies, surely I could rewrite mine, embracing the beautiful messiness of it all. Drawing from the inspiration that surged from my great-grandmother's story and the courageous cousin who stepped beyond expectations, I mapped out bold ambitions that demanded my attention. I would pursue my art, reinvigorating the dormant dreams nestled within. But beyond mere ambition, I would infuse those dreams with purpose, a mission to honor the struggles of my ancestors while shaping a narrative filled with authenticity and creativity. With clarity sharpening my focus, visions of art, stories, and connections fluttered through my mind like trapped butterflies yearning for release. Every choice I made from this point forward would hinge on honesty, exploration, and the understanding that I could break existing molds. Then, the inevitable thought resurfaced. Would anyone else resonate with the experiences I had unearthed? The urgency to share these stories transformed into a hum within my spirit. "You are not alone," I whispered with resolve, awakening the sense of community I had longed for. One that could echo through generations, helping all involved to be seen and celebrated. As I readied myself to embark on this journey, armed with the insights and narratives woven together, I recalled the countless stories woven throughout history. Every plot twist and personal struggle I encountered became a lesson, a stepping stone fostering growth and resilience. It was clear to me now. I was not just forging a path for myself, but beckoning others to join in this adventure of reclaiming agency over their own destinies. If you connect with this journey, don't forget to hit that thanks button below, I reminded myself and the unnamed multitude that might resonate with my story. Your support will elevate these narratives, enabling us to build a legacy worth celebrating. Each click would strengthen the bond between storytellers and seekers, knitting together a vibrant tapestry echoing resilience and hope. The vision was becoming clearer now. I would use my art as a medium not only for self-expression, but also for outreach, connecting with those yearning for stories that shatter the silence, inspire, and uplift. I would become a living testimony of transformation, moving through fear and uncertainty toward a horizon filled with potential. With my heart racing and determination surging forth, I set my sights on the next chapter of my life. I understood that the stories I would tell were not solely about me. They were a symphony of voices, my family's trials, triumphs, and enduring spirit harmonized. In the spaces between, where silence once reigned, now infused with my vibrant dreams, a new legacy awaited, just waiting to be written. It was time to step boldly into this future, armed with lessons gleaned from the past and a fierce desire to connect through art, choices, and, above all, shared humanity. The echoes of those who had traversed this path before me were not merely remnants. They were beacons guiding me forward, illuminating possibilities hidden in the shadows, waiting to transcend into reality. As I prepared to embrace this new chapter, a gentle breeze whispered through my window, wrapping me in a cocoon of possibility. I felt the presence of my ancestors, the dreamers and the doers, surrounding me, their hopes weaving into my spirit. These stories were no longer distant echoes. They were part of my living narrative, and I was ready to shape it into something meaningful. Sitting before my desk, I opened my notebook filled with dreams long shelved. Each page brimming with ideas represented aspirations I had once dimmed with doubt. I recognized this moment as the time to reclaim my voice. What if I could reach others? The thought surged through me, igniting a determination to share my journey and inspire connection through our intertwined stories. I realized that writing was no longer just therapy. It was a powerful tool for transformation. I envisioned workshops where I could share the timeless lessons embedded within my family's histories, inviting others to explore their own narratives. Together, we'd weave a tapestry of shared experiences, unburdening ourselves from the weight of silence and fear. Amid my reflections, clarity washed over me. If I could transform my fears into creative fuel, perhaps others could too. I drew strength from the inspiring stories of my great-grandmother and courageous cousin, mapping out ambitious plans that demanded my attention. I would pursue my art, revitalizing dreams once abandoned and imbuing each endeavor with purpose, honoring the legacies of those who had fought so hard before me. In this renewed clarity, I set out to craft a narrative not solely about me, but about the community and humanity interwoven throughout. The call to action echoed in my heart. Together we rise. If my journey resonated with others, I wish to invite them to join me, to create a movement where vulnerability and authenticity could transform lives. And as I prepared to connect with anyone who might hear my story, I reminded myself, if you connect with this journey, don't forget to hit that thanks button below. Each gesture of support would weave us tighter together, fostering a rich community teeming with resilience and hope. With my heart racing and purpose ignited, I understood the time had come to step boldly into this new legacy. Each word I typed was a thread in the fabric of our collective experience. The echoes of those who had journeyed before me now served as beacons, illuminating paths filled with potential, inviting transformation. With each keystroke, I was not just writing my story. I was igniting a movement, a legacy woven from the struggles and triumphs of my past, while embracing the vibrant dreams waiting to bloom. This was it. My narrative not just unfolding, but expanding into a shared space of hope, where together we would navigate and illuminate the way forward.